Good evening. This is News Select. It's July 12, 2050. The headlines. The main news today: scientists are predicting a year of disasters on an unprecedented scale. The reason? Global warming. Predicted effects range from floods to landslides. Droughts are forecast too. The death rate from starvation worldwide is set to rise to 20,000 a week. In the next 12 months, meteorologists are predicting a death toll well into the tens of millions from weather disasters alone.
This film tells the story of a terrible year in our future. A year when the world's biggest killer is our climate. Global warming may take millions of lives. Scientists are predicting storms more savage than anything we've yet seen. Fire and flood. Destruction on a massive scale. In our future, global warming could cause up to 30 million deaths in a single year. That year is 2050. We live on an astonishing planet, a vast world. Mountains, oceans, immense plains. It is a world of wonders. Home to over 6 billion human beings. Our home. And we're destroying it. Scientists first began worrying in the 1980s. Freak hot summers year after year.
You can see large warming in North America.
They suspected it was the greenhouse effect.
It's continuing a trend that we're seeing toward increased temperatures.
But was it? Research began worldwide.
The increasing greenhouse gases. This all is consistent with an increasing number of extreme events.
By the mid-90s, the scientists were completely sure. Even world leaders were convinced.
Global climate change affecting how we and all others on this planet will live to avoid leaving our children and our grandchildren with a catastrophe.
By 1996, we knew we were changing the world's climate. We are choking our own planet. Carbon dioxide from our cars and factories, from burning and deforestation, is trapping more and more of the sun's heat. As we pollute our planet, it's becoming hotter. Already, the Earth is half a degree warmer than it was 100 years ago. What will it be like in 50 years' time? Already, our climate is changing. The recent floods in Europe have been more widespread and severe than ever. Around the world, events which were rare or distant are happening more frequently. This is what just a half-degree temperature rise can do. 50 years from now, our planet will be 5 degrees warmer. Global warming will transform our world forever.
Well, there's no question that global warming is real and that the cause of global warming is ourselves. It's the polluting activities of mankind. That is without question. On the one hand, you may have a few maverick scientists, a few groups who have their own agenda, who have their own vested interests at trying to pretend that global warming is not happening, or at the very least that it's a natural variation in the climate. But that's completely untrue. 1,000 of the world's top climate scientists have contributed to the United Nations report that says global warming is real, it's big news, it's serious, and it's the biggest threat we've ever faced.
Bill Maguire heads Europe's largest hazard research centre. He and the vast majority of scientists now believe global warming will have consequences we can barely imagine today.
Nobody is safe and nowhere is safe. There's nowhere to hide and there's not going to be anywhere we can run. In the year 2000, 1 in 30 people were affected by natural hazards worldwide. By the time we get to 2050, or maybe a little bit later on, I think that figure will be 1 in 1. In other words, everyone is going to be affected by natural hazards every year.
Good evening. The Week in Review. It's August the 15th, 2050. Just over a month ago, we reported predictions that the next 12 months would see a sharp rise in climate-related disasters. This week, the catastrophes that are already making those predictions come true. The flash floods in Italy this morning have already claimed 782 lives. The floods bring the total of weather-related disasters to 57 within the last 4 weeks. Casualties overall for the last month now stand in excess of 80,000. Fires are still ripping through California. 20,000 people have been evacuated and 200 are now feared dead. In Australia, bushfires have claimed 87 lives in the Sydney suburbs. In Africa, the aid agencies are overwhelmed. The drought in Mozambique has now killed an estimated 50,000. Then, last week, freak storms left 3 million without running water or basic sanitation. These storms aside, this is their 4th year without rain. The drought looks set to continue.
How can we prepare for a future where the only certainties are chaos and constant disaster? There are places today where we can glimpse what tomorrow may hold. Doug Kopp is today's foremost rescue engineer.
Process bacteria. And then we say here, 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 here. But no more disinfectant.
His job is to take apart the wreckage left by a disaster and search for bodies, or, if he's lucky, for survivors. He has witnessed the horrors all of us may face in the future. In a sense, global warming is already a reality for him.
If someone was to ask me, Doug, we want to film a disaster, or we want to see a disaster, or we want something to do with a disaster, where do we go? And I would say, well, look, you know, your best bet is to go to Peru, because they are beaten down continuously every few months with one disaster or another.
Peru is plagued by El Niño, a weather event that hits once every few years, when a current in the Pacific Ocean suddenly changes direction. Whenever it strikes, it causes certain, irresistible and global disaster. The world is racked by floods, fires, storms and droughts. El Niño hints at the horrific future that may await us all, not every few years, but all the time.
Escuchamos un ruido demasiado fuerte.
We heard a loud noise, and from the direction of Simbal, we saw an avalanche.
hemos visto que un alud,
sludge, mud, rocks.
barro,
It dragged along animals, trees,
animales, árboles,
ripped away all the houses.
viviendas.
Before we rebuilt, all this was in ruins. It was a disaster. Houses, gardens, everything.
Todo esto acá son zanjas que han hecho.
All of this was in ruins. The El Niño flattened everything.
This is what global warming may one day do to us all. These ruins near Trujillo in the north of the country were left by a flood during the last El Niño. This, now a wasteland of rubble, was home to hundreds. In this single village just 3 years ago, more than 90 people died.
In the village that we visited, with the huge area of total and complete destruction, with even foundations gone, nothing except a ring of debris that floated in from the river, and the traces of roads running through it. That was completely devastated, completely destroyed. Surrounding it are homes and half rubble. Next El Niño, in 3 months' time, they will be completely destroyed.